Today, we delve into the tragic case involving Sandra Melgar, who finds herself confined to a stark cell, reflecting on the unexpected twists her life has taken. Never did she envision becoming a widow and the prime suspect in her husband's murder. A grand jury indictment a year and a half after her husband's death, followed by a jury's conviction based solely on circumstantial evidence nearly 5 years later, were shocking developments. There was no clear motive or tangible evidence linking her to the crime. At 59, each day since her husband's passing has been a harrowing ordeal. In a recent interview, Sandra, with swollen and teary eyes, admitted, "Sometimes I still feel like I'll return home. I catch myself wanting to share things with him, forgetting he's gone." She perceives his absence more like a temporary separation than a permanent loss. Despite her trials, Sandra tries not to dwell on the past. She clings to hope, saying, "I know, I'll see him again." For 10 months now, she has resided in the Williams Hobby Unit, a women's prison nestled in the Texan countryside. Despite the challenging environment, Sandra keeps in touch with her loved ones, including her daughter, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, also known as Liz Melgar Rose, staunchly advocates for her mother, arranging regular visits and passionately asserting her innocence. She witnesses her mother's profound anguish, knowing she will never be the same after losing both parents. Sandra grapples with the memories of that tragic night in December 2012 when her husband met his untimely end. Found bound and distressed in her closet, she remembers the celebration of their 32nd wedding anniversary earlier that evening. Their once joyful home now bears the grim aftermath of violence. Jim, her husband, lies lifeless, a stark reminder of a brutal struggle. Amidst the chaos, memories of their enduring love and shared dreams linger, dreams of a world tour and a serene retirement by the beach. Their love story, which began in high school, endured for decades, marked by humor, companionship, and mutual admiration. As they relaxed in their jacuzzi that fateful night, little did they know it would be their final moments together. Now, as Sandra languishes in her cell, her thoughts often return to that night, searching for answers amidst fragmented memories and the weight of suspicion. Yet, despite the darkness that surrounds her, she holds on to hope for a reunion and exoneration. At just past 4:30 in the afternoon, Herman Melgar found himself outside his brother's house, met with silence behind the closed door. Despite being invited for dinner by Jim, neither Jim nor Sandra responded to calls or doorbell rings, leaving Herman puzzled. Observing Jim's truck parked in the driveway and Sandra's car in the garage, Herman directed his family to wait at the front door while he investigated the backyard. A plastic tarp hanging from the pergola hinted at recent home improvements by Jim, known for his industriousness. Herman's curiosity led him to check the laundry room door within the garage. Finding it unlocked, he entered the dimly lit, stuffy house with drawn blinds, accompanied by the barking of restless dogs, setting an unsettling atmosphere later recounted by his daughter Marissa. Muffled screams pierced the air, prompting Herman to rush to the source, where he discovered Sandra bound and distressed in the bathroom closet. With assistance from his wife Maria, Herman struggled to release Sandra from her restraints, using a pair of scissors retrieved from the bathroom. Meanwhile, Sandra's inquiries about Jim's whereabouts led to the grim discovery of his lifeless body in the closet. Sandra, in a state of shock, was comforted by Maria as paramedics arrived to tend to her. Police documentation revealed Sandra's injuries and confusion, with her explanation involving a seizure episode and subsequent memory loss. Her declining health and recent experiences with seizures added complexity to the investigation. While crime scene investigators combed through the house for evidence, Sandra found herself under scrutiny during a lengthy interrogation at the sheriff's office. Despite providing details about her activities leading up to Jim's death, Sandra's memory faltered at critical moments, frustrating detectives seeking answers. Tensions escalated as detectives pressed Sandra, insinuating her involvement in Jim's demise, prompting her to request legal representation. Refusal to undergo a polygraph test further fueled suspicions among investigators. Ultimately, the district attorney's office opted not to pursue murder charges against Sandra due to insufficient evidence. However, the tragedy sent shockwaves through the neighborhood, sparking concerns and heightened security measures among residents wary of potential threats. The Melgars were known to their neighbors as a reserved couple, mostly keeping to themselves. Occasionally, glimpses of Jim working in the yard or Sandra coming and going from the garage would be caught. One neighbor, recalling the night of the murder, mentioned being in his garage until late, but couldn't recall any suspicious activity. If anyone was going to be robbed, it would probably be me since my garage door was wide open, the neighbor said, reflecting on the situation. I was there alone, just messing with my stuff. If someone were going to rob anyone, they'd probably just see me and think, let's tie him up and take his stuff. 2 days after the murder, Liz met with Sandra and reported missing items from the house, including a bedroom TV and Sandra's medication. Liz also shared details about her mother's health issues, expressing concern for her fragile state. She's in a fragile state right now, Liz conveyed. It seems like she's experiencing post-traumatic stress. Maybe something will jog her memory later. It's hard to say. Despite Liz's efforts, no significant breakthroughs occurred, and the authorities stopped responding to her inquiries, leaving both her and Sandra in the dark about the investigation's progress. A year and a half later, Sandra was discreetly indicted for Jim's murder by a grand jury. The grand jury proceedings, shrouded in secrecy by state law, kept the public uninformed about the discussions and evidence presented. Sandra's case progressed slowly, passing through multiple prosecutors' hands until it reached Colleen Barnett's desk in May 2017. Barnett, a seasoned prosecutor known for her diligence and fairness, acknowledged the challenges in Sandra's case. Despite the lack of a clear motive, confession, or direct evidence, Barnett believed in the case. During the trial, she portrayed Sandra as a calculated murderer who planned Jim's death. Presenting various theories, including the possibility of Sandra desiring to end their marriage despite religious constraints, Barnett couldn't definitively establish a motive. Sandra's attorney, George Max Seacrest, presented Sandra as a victim of premature judgment by investigators. The trial witnessed intense clashes between Barnett and Seacrest. Barnett delivered a significant blow with the testimony of a blood spatter analyst, Celestin Rossi, who discredited the home invasion theory. The jury found Sandra guilty of murder, sentencing her to 27 years in prison. The decision, though humane in its consideration of Sandra's age, left her supporters and family devastated. They had expected a different outcome and felt betrayed by the justice system. Blaming Barnett for twisting Sandra's words and concocting an implausible narrative, Sandra's supporters directed their anger toward her. However, the jury foreman defended Barnett's version of events, finding Sandra's story inconsistent and ultimately holding her accountable for the crime. He also cast doubt on the authenticity of her seizure that night, citing Sandra's medical records, which showed stable seizures, and her visit to the neurologist after the murder, during which she didn't mention the alleged seizure. The more you listened to her, the more you realized her statements didn't add up, the foreman asserted, standing by the jury's decision. At every turn, when you delve deeper, you see that she is not telling the truth, he added. I would like to believe her, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Admittedly, he noted, could we be wrong? It's possible, but I don't think so. A month after the verdict, Seacrest filed a motion for a new trial, outlining in an 88-page brief how Sandra had been convicted based on an incompetent investigation conducted by investigators who were clearly driven by a particular theory and lacked sufficient evidence to justify a guilty verdict. The prosecution's case relied on speculation and hypotheses unsupported by evidence, Seacrest later argued. However, Judge Johnson dismissed his motion, initiating a potentially lengthy appeals process and marking Sandra's final chance to prove her innocence. Seated behind a glass partition in the visitor center last July, Sandra adamantly maintains her innocence. No, she softly insists, her voice barely audible. I didn't kill my husband. Her hand trembles as it moves to her mouth, and she breathes heavily. No, I didn't kill him, she repeats, shaking her head in denial. If it wasn't me, then who? I wish I knew. I wouldn't be here if I did. Breathing becomes difficult, and she clutches her chest, sensing the onset of a panic attack. This feels like a nightmare, she says. Sandra clings to hope for eventual release, whether through a successful appeal or parole. Her eligibility date is February 2031, when she will be 71 years old. This case is marked by its complexity and emotional weight, revolving around Sandra Melgar's conviction for her husband's murder. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the darker side of human nature and intrigued by the mysteries surrounding crime and murder, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on the latest chilling cases and gripping investigations. Remember, the truth is often stranger than fiction, and there's always more to uncover. Stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.